Welcome back to your favorite St. Louis sports podcast, the Lounatics. I'm your host, Tyler, along with my co-host and friend, John. And apparently I'm stumbling over my words already, which is impressive because I haven't been drinking.
Yet. Haven't been drinking yet. Don't sell yourself short. It's a long night.
We are just getting started. Who the heck knows where this is going to go?
Certainly not us. We just make it up as we go. It's kind of our whole brand.
I feel like if I just talk long enough, something interesting will come out of my mouth.
Probably. Eventually, there's good content in here. You just, you
may have to
got to
search
mine
for
through a bunch of crap. Yeah, right. I see you're drinking water.
I am drinking water.
I am drinking water as well. We are now a health and foods podcast. So sorry if you're here to listen to sports.
Yeah, it's fine. Here's a fun tidbit. So I have a bottle of Cazadores tequila on the shelf behind me that we use for cooking.
Okay.
Lindsay decided she was going to make the tequila chicken marinade, tequila marinade we do for chicken today. And I'm in a meeting with some higher ups at the hospital. And I get out of the meeting and I see a picture of my Casamigos tequila going, "This is the one we use for cooking, right?" And I was like, "Please no." Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah, you should have known better.
Tequila was delicious, but yeah.
I've had that tequila. It is delicious.
It is delicious, but it's fine. You live and learn. It'll be fine. Everything's fine. Speaking of everything being fine, let's talk about the Blues for a minute. Is everything fine there?
No, but the room is on fire.
Yeah, so that definitely fits with the meme. After the loss today in overtime, we are on a 4-game losing streak. For those of you who aren't aware, we are recording this on a Thursday night, November 14th. So that's where the loss comes in overtime against the Buffalo Sabres tonight. This is 2 games in a row. We've actually had the lead going into the third period and have lost the game, which is something we didn't do last year, at all.
Well, you have to have the lead to lose the lead. I felt like last year we pulled some.
We were like something like 17-1-1 if we had the lead after 2 periods last year. If we had the lead after 3 periods last year,
right?
We were actually undefeated.
Right. We're pretty good in that stat. Turns out if you're leading when the game ends, you tend to win. Also, in other news, water is wet.
You didn't know. Now you do. So here's the kicker. The kick to the nuts in all of this is these are some games that we really needed to win while we're dealing with the Broberg and the Robert Thomas injuries. And when you have your best offensive player and arguably your most dynamic defensive player, I'd still put Parayko as your best all-around defender, but I think Broberg is your most dynamic player from your defensive lines.
For sure.
And so when you put those two both out at the same time, you have to win the games. You when you have the lead in the third period, you have to close those out, and we're not. And again, it's still not time to, I think, hit the panic eject button yet, although we're getting there close. If this keeps trending this direction, I think it's going to end up pretty quickly that something big's got to give, and it'll probably be the coaching situation. But more than anything, right? You need somebody on the team to step up and be the guy. In Robert Thomas's absence, and Benner can only do so much, and I just don't think we have that guy on the roster right now. Kyrou is never going to be that guy. He's that guy he's going to have flashes where he looks amazing, and he's going to have times when he tries to do those amazing highlight reel plays that blow up in his face and goes the other way. And I've just kind of come to accept that's what he is. And I know I spent most of all last season just bitching about his lack of defense. But I've just given up on bitching about that. And I think I've just accepted him for who he is. He's going to make some highlight reel plays. and then he's going to try to make some highlight reel plays, and it's going to blow up in his face, and we're all going to be pissed off about it tomorrow.
I mean,
and
he's a high risk, high reward guy, right? He is who he is, just like you said. That's not entirely on him, right? There's a lot of data scientist type people out there who say that you really should just lean into the things that make you good versus trying to improve at the areas that you're bad. And we can, debate on if that's actually true or not. But I think when it comes to like sports, especially, like you want to maximize the things that your guys are good at, and you want to try to hide their deficiencies. And one of the things that I don't think the Blues do a very good job on as far as Kyrou goes is I don't think they hide his deficiencies well.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it, right? It's the DH conversation in baseball.
Oh, for sure.
Right? This guy can absolutely mash the ball, but he can't play defense. So guess what? He's our new DH, right? Like you hide the deficiency. And I think I agree. They don't do a good job of hiding Kyrou's deficiencies, and that really comes to shine. I think the other issue right now, and I think it's come to light more with Robert Thomas being out, is that, we talked about it some in our season preview episode, which more of a like rest of the season preview episode with Jacob, but
right,
which
is unpublished because our software has basically decided that it is not good. So sorry for us referencing this deep cut episode that does not exist.
It doesn't exist yet. So you're telling me there's a chance.
There's something.
Anyway, but we talked about it with Jacob, and one of the things that I said we needed it for us to be a true playoff contender and willing to actually make noise in the playoffs is we needed a number 2 center. And we don't currently have that guy on the NHL roster. And whether that's a young guy coming up to fill into that role, or it's, a trade or a signing or whatever that happens may be, we need a number 2 center for that number 2 line. And until we get that, I don't have high hopes. And we've been playing Bucci there, but Bucci's a left wing. I mean, like, let's call it what it is. And he's fighting the good fight to do what he's doing. But until he moves back to the left wing, I don't see us truly being able to maximize the potential. And that goes, the other piece to that is, right, is you need a good, solid defensive center to pair with Kyrou. It goes back to what you were saying, to hide some of the other things that Kyrou doesn't do as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we knew that this is not going to be a 1-year turnaround too, right? What's frustrating about it is that right now they look like how they looked at their worst last year, I think. And
we have 2 8-1 losses.
Yes. Probably 2 more than we had last year. I don't think we had any games that bad last year. And so
maybe 8-2. I don't know.
It might have been a game we snuck in a few goals. It's just frustrating, and I'm trying to pull up some of their stats right now, but I don't. Before the season started, you and I said that this team has to be better than it was last year. Like on paper, it looked like it was better, right? You expect everyone to take a step forward. We got Broberg in. Like it really seemed like it was a team that was going to take maybe not a huge step forward, but a step forward. And so far, that has not been what we've watched.
Yep. Yeah, so far it has been anything but that step forward. And what that is going to look like long term, I mean, I don't know. We did not lose any games that badly last year. We lost a couple of 6-1 games, and we did have an 8-2 victory. We lost one 8-3 to Nashville.
Ooh, well, but that's 2 more than 1. So
correct. So that's still better. And we beat Colorado 8-2.
Let me ask you this: what's more embarrassing, an 8-3 loss or a 5-0 loss?
honestly, 8-3, just giving up 8 goals is disgusting.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. Like
and
5-0 sucks.
yeah.
But like chances are there's probably a couple empty netters there at the end of the game when you were pushing.
Right.
Or at least an empty netter, hopefully.
Hopefully. I mean, come on. If you're losing by 5, you're not gonna put 5 in and give none up if you're taking out the goalie. Like, let's be clear about what's actually going to happen there.
Can we put 2 goalies in if we're down by that much and just say, you know what, let's just stop the bleeding?
I think we should just start the game off that way. You know, you can have like a front goalie and a back goalie, and like one shades to the left and one shades to the right. There you go. Be fine.
I think instead of pulling the goalie after he's given up 4 or 5 goals, that's what we need to start doing. Just bring in a second goalie and just play with 4 men at the rest of the way.
I mean, I'm here for it, especially because I think 2 of the better players on this team are Binner and Hofer. So
yeah, no, I mean, like if you were to list if I were to tell you, give me the 6 best players on the team, who would you put? And I'm not saying like a starting lineup. I mean, just 6 just best. Like if you were doing like NCAA overall ratings on the roster.
I mean, Thomas, Bucci, Parayko, Broberg, Hofer, and Binner.
Yeah. I got 2 goalies, I got 2 defensemen, and I have 2 offensive players.
That's a lineup.
It's solid, right? Like, but like, if you're healthy, you can win some games. But the problem is we're not healthy. I mean, you and I talked about it, but like playing for the St. Louis Blues might be one of the most dangerous professions in the U.S. right now.
Hockey is not a safe sport. That's for sure.
So, I don't know. Here's my fun question to you that I did not prep you on.
Okay.
Intentionally.
Sure.
How many games in a row do the Blues have to lose for Bannister to get fired?
Oh, in a row?
Yeah, or how 8. Bad did 8 in a row?
I think so. 6 does not feel like enough. Like 6 is like, okay, you're on like a bad stretch. 8 is at the point where you're like, I think 8 is the quickest that could happen.
Yeah. I was thinking if he went like 3-12 in a 15-game stretch, he's done.
I would say that's. I would agree with that. 3-12 in a 15-game stretch. Yeah, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. He's 3-8 in his last 11. So
yeah, I'm saying so. Like my thought is, if we lose our next 4, it's over.
Oh yeah, certainly. If we lost 4 more from right now, actually no, he's 3-9 in his last 12 because
there's 3 more. Yeah.
Oh,
because that doesn't.
No, never mind. They updated it. They updated the website. Sorry, they hadn't shown the Sabres score earlier, and I misread it this time. 3-8 is correct. No, there's no way he makes it 4 more losses in a row. Like that's just not going to happen. Now, if he wins a game in there and loses the other 3, I don't think that he necessarily gets fired right away. But
this road trip is 3 games long, right?
That is correct. And I know the next one is against the Bruins, but I don't remember who's after that.
I was like, I know we played the Bruins because I freaking Boston. And then we go to the Hurricanes. Then we come home for the Wild and Sharks.
Yes.
I think if we're looking at 4 of the next 4 games. If we lose 3 of those games and one of them is the Sharks, I think he's done.
Well, yeah, you can't lose to the Sharks.
We did twice last year, and he was the coach for at least 1, or maybe 3 times, and he was the coach for 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah, but like if you're winning other games, you can do that. But if you're not winning the other games, you can't lose to the Sharks, right? I mean, it's the same thing like with in MLS this year, right? Like, and it's the same city. You can't lose to San Jose.
Yeah.
Right. Like you just can't lose to San Jose if you're losing other games. It's one thing if you like, take the foot off the gas for them because you're beating the other good teams and, you're rotating, you're resting, like whatever. But like you need to get those points.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree. And I think and honestly, that's a good place to transition, right? Blues, right? You have to win some of these games or it's going to be continue to be turmoil with the coaching staff, which makes it hard for these players to really gain traction in a system.
mm-hmm.
Transitioning over to City, which is a more exciting topic as we're in the off season, we get to talk about the what could be's and then what do we want to see happens and interviews with Carnell and Lutz and all the things that I see interviews with Carnell. So somebody ran into, like, I keep seeing posts of people running into Carnell and being like, oh, and I talked to him about blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, how come I never run into these people just out at the store? Do we not shop at the same stores?
You need to shop at one of the fancy Deerbergs if you want to run into Carnell. I saw that post too, and that is definitely a fancy Deerbergs. And I know all Deerbergs are like a little fancy too, but this isn't bougie. Like this is not like the Deerbergs out by us out on the outskirts, right? This looked like one that was like in a nice part of town where all the rich people
like a
live.
Ladue style.
Yes. Yeah.
Clayton. Somewhere. Yeah. No. Anyway, but Lutz Pfannenstiel did have a big interview. And I only listened to part of it because I was trying to listen on the ride home, but ended up having to take a phone call. I think you listened to more of it, but I think there's just a lot of excitement around where this team's headed. And he sounds excited about where this team is headed, and in a lot of ways. I think there's still some.
In that interview, he did call himself an optimist, which is an unusual trait for a German. So he's probably underselling his own optimism there.
I could see that. I mean, for me right now with St. Louis City, the biggest question mark is your head coach, which is kind of a big question mark.
Well, yeah, I mean, they brought in 6 new players in the summer transfer window, right? They've already said that they don't really anticipate making moves in the winter window, maybe 1 or 2 if the right player comes available or someone comes asking for one of our guys and whatever. And they need to make a move. But yeah, like the coach is the one thing that's unsettled. You're not going to make any big acquisitions this year because you've got a really good core, at least we think really good. So yeah, they just have to figure out the coaching.
I think it's figuring out the coaching and then building the chemistry amongst the team, right? Just more time playing together, going through the stuff together. It's, when you have that many new players in such a short time, it's tough. And then figuring out who your starters are going to be. I think that's going to be, I think we're very heavy at a few spots. And I think some of those positions will be interesting to see how whoever ends up being the coach kind of plays out with those. It was exciting to see the video of Celio out on the field, moving and running again after his injury. So that's, for me, always exciting. And speaking of Celio, one of my favorite moments I got to keep reliving because it kept getting posted as he won goal of the year. But watching Klaus absolutely truck Chuck Zagata into next week and then lay the ball off to Celio for the banger.
Right.
In Kansas City, Kansas side of Kansas City, but Kansas City nonetheless.
Still Kansas City. Yeah. No, that was a phenomenal one. And the fans of this team, like Celio is definitely a fan favorite in like every sense of the word, right? He's hardworking. He's not on a huge contract. Like he's just a guy who goes out there, has fun, and works his ass off. Like, what more can we ask for? I saw that video too, so I'm really excited about that as well. That he's out there and actually getting to practice and kick the ball a little bit. And I got to admit, it's a lot earlier than I thought he would be back to kicking a ball on the field. Mm-hmm. Like I was thinking like he might get to start soccer-like activities in like February or March. So that puts him 4 or 5 months ahead. And that, it's still a long way before we're going to see him on the field, but that's still just a really, really good sign, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it's incredibly exciting, and I love what you said. He kind of embodies like the nature of the city, right, and of the fans, St. Louis fans as a whole, right? It's that blue collar, hardworking player, and that's who St. Louis fans love, right? Look at the guys that they just absolutely fall in love with. It's never, yes, everyone loves their stars, but those like hardworking, put your head down, get the job done players are the ones that everyone loves, and then to just see the joy that he embodies when he's playing the game, right? He has so much passion, not just joy, but then on the flip side, like you see his anger and his frustration when things don't go well, but it's never in a it's never a bad way, right? It's never like he's directing it in the wrong way, but you can tell like he cares so much, and I think that goes a long way.
I mean, I don't know if I would say that he gets angry when things aren't going well. I think he gets passionate, but he's very uplifting. It's not like Klaus, right? Or
Yes.
or what Parker would do, right? If things were not going well, Parker and Berkey are losing their minds, right? And Celio's not like that.
I think you just see his facial expression change, right? It's not like a screaming, a yelling. It's like something doesn't go his way, or like he loses the ball, and you just see like this like zoned in, like, oh hell no, I'm not gonna like let this go down like that, right?
Right.
It's just a different mindset, and so I appreciate that. And we've talked about it a lot, but when he's healthy, if Alm's healthy, Indy's healthy, like where do you fit all these guys in and find minutes for them?
Yeah, and that's why Johnny Klein was not picked up for his option, right? Like, there's no space for him. I can't see a world where Mickey Perez comes back into this team this year. And I think another loan would be really good for Mickey, but like, there's also just no space for him this year. There's a lot of guys, and if you want to know kind of what I'm thinking, I mean, I think our lineup is going to be, basically Berkey, obviously, and then Totlin, Kessler, Nilsson if he's healthy, or Hebert if not, Horn, Durkin, Leuven, and then it's going to be Hartel, Toyshirt, Klaus, Bescher. Does that give me 11? I might have one more. And then that last person will probably rotate between Indy and and Celio, depending on fitness and everything else, right? And then you've got, those two guys coming off the bench. You've got JGR coming off the bench. You've got possibly Akil. Like, there's flexibility, but we're now at our top, just listing those names off, 15, 16 guys that are probably going to play regularly. And of course, there's going to be subs on the back line, like for rotation when we need it, but like, they're not going to sub those guys out in the middle of the game. And so then you're running out of space. So I don't know. I am excited about this team, though. I think it is a better team. The team that we ended with is better than the team we started with in 2024.
Oh, I 100% agree. Also, I'm going to apologize because I just realized that my mic is not going through my actual mic. It's going through my speaker's mic on my computer. So sorry if it's hard to hear me for you or anybody else. It wasn't until I tried to mute my mic to cough, and then I realized it was still saying that my stuff was coming across. And I'm like, uh-oh, it did not pick up the right microphone. So I think one of the, Lutz pretty much said, right, Betcher's here to stay. But
yeah, he said the odds are very good that they pick up his option because other MLS teams have been reaching out to AC Horsens about possibly purchasing his contract. And Lutz said that's that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
and then I think the big one that I'm most intrigued about to see how it plays out. And shout out No Goal Patrol for a chat with a bunch of their people we were in earlier today. As you and I were both echoed the sentiment that we're really intrigued to see what happens to Jonas Horn.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's solidified his position as the left back in this team right now. He definitely changes this team. I'm no longer feeling like left back is a liability defensively. I think his service is really, really good. I think his link-up play on that left-hand side is really, really good. and part of that comes with the fact that Hartel and Leuven and Horn and Toyshirt have, played in the German youth system, for the youth national team, growing up together, right? They were on the same team like 5 different times, different levels. So I think that goes a long way. And we'll see. I don't think Lutz is opposed to finding another left back, but if Horn continues next year like he did this year, I think they probably take that option as well.
Oh, I think that, yeah. And I hope that he does perform that well and that we do take that option.
Absolutely.
Because, and it really gives us 5 to 6 solid backs that we can play at different spots, right? You're looking at Totland and Horn on either side. You've got Nielsen, assuming he's healthy, in the middle, which you can back him up with Hebert, right? And Hebert's grown a lot. As long as he's still on the team, you still have Hebert. You've got Nerwinski, who can still play a solid right back, assuming we link up and get that contract done. Because last I heard, we still had not yet officially got that done, but we were working on it.
Yeah, in the announcement where they announced, which options they had selected for next year, there were only 2 options that they did not take for next year, and one of them was Johnny Klein, who they basically said thank you for your time, and didn't say anything else. But for Nerwinski, they said that they are in negotiations to re-sign him, basically. And I hope that works out. You and I love Jake, love him for the vibes, love him for what he brings. He's a guy who comes in and definitely embodies that blue collar mentality that we were just talking about. Sounds like he's a great teammate. Like I really love having him on this team. And if he doesn't resign because he wants to go somewhere and play, like where he's going to play more, like no one's under any illusions that Thomas Totland is, generally speaking, the first choice right back. Like we all know that. And Jake has made comments that he does not want to be a backup. He believes he can start, and he believes he can play more than what he did this year, at least for the first half of this year. And I don't blame him if he wants to go somewhere else and do that, but I really, really hope he stays.
Yeah. All right. And then you still have got Kessler to really anchor down the middle. I think we've talked about it, right? Yarrow we have, but chances are he's going to San Diego in the draft. And if he doesn't, great. Like I have no problem keeping Yarrow on our squad. But as a depth piece, but my concern is if he doesn't go to San Diego, who are they taking from us?
Well, they only get to choose 5 players. And one thing and you've heard me make this comment before, right? If you're doing an expansion draft, granted, and in soccer, it is much more about, finding the guy who fits your system more than anything else. But generally speaking, when these types of things have occurred in other sports, players are not taken from the bad teams usually, right? Because the team is bad. So like, it just doesn't look good and you don't really want to associate with that or, whatever. It's almost always someone from one of the better teams that gets taken. So I provided we protect the right people, I don't anticipate us losing anyone. Other than possibly Yarrow, who I think will be unprotected. But
yeah, I think it'll be interesting. That's I think December 11th, something like that.
I thought it was the next week,
like the 19th or something, maybe.
Yeah, I have 2 vacations in December, or 2 trips, and I thought it was on the second one. I'm going to look it up now. While keep talking.
No, you're good. So we have the expansion draft. Again, we've got a lot of depth at midfield. I think a bounce back year and a healthy year from Klaus could go a long way for him winning back over a lot of the fans and stuff. Again,
you're right. It is December 11th.
Ooh, nailed it. I think what we really need, and I think it's something that we got from Betra a little bit, but is you need somebody with that killer instinct up top. And I felt like Klaus just didn't have it this year.
Had it in 2023, did not in 2024.
Yeah. And so I want to see if he regains that, or if he doesn't, if somebody else can really step up and take over that killer instinct role and let him play underneath as more of a facilitator where you don't need him to. And I think that's where Betcher they see him playing into that role some. And, we have a lot of guys who are creators, right? Types, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at Toyshirt, Hartle, Leuven. And now if Klaus falls into that too, you have all these guys that are creators. Somebody's got to be the guy no, I'm going to take the shots. And I think Toyshirt kind of started doing that more the last few games. I thought it felt like I saw him taking more shots. But that's something I feel like, question mark wise, offensively, that's what we need.
Yeah. I mean, Toyshirt had a phenomenal half season with us. I'm actually pulling up his stats right now. I was putting them in.
It was real nice.
Let me point something out to you right now. Okay. So, doing quick math. Okay. So, do you know how many goal contributions Klaus had per 90 minutes?
Oh, per 90?
Per 90. Just a guess. Just a guess how many goal contributions he had per 90.
0.6.
Okay. How many do you think Cedric Toyshirt had in MLS this year?
Goal contributions or per 90?
Goal contributions per 90.
1.5.
Overestimated both of them. Klaus had roughly 0.36, I think, and Toyshirt had 1.07. So Toyshirt was worth a goal per game that he played for us, and Klaus was not. Now,
a goal every 3.
Yeah, a goal every 3. I will say Toyshirt did overperform again. Okay, sure. Not going to go live that conversation for the 1 billionth time in the last 2 years. But we need more production out of Klaus. And I think a lot of what Klaus does well does not necessarily appear on the score sheet, but eventually they're going to start ignoring those things that Klaus does, those off-ball runs that he does to pull defenders and create space for others. So when that starts happening and he gets his shots, he has to start burying them. He has to continue to command respect from them, because they're going to look at his tape this year and they're going to say, just ignore him, right? He's just going to sky the ball if they pass it to him. So next year, that is going to be huge for this team.
Oh, yeah. I agree. And like I said, if he regains just some of that form, right, lands somewhere in the middle between the 2 seasons, great. Right? Like that's yeah. I'm okay with that. But he can't have another repeat of this year.
Correct.
Next season.
Yeah. And I mean, he played 2,000 minutes. Like thinking about this year, it sounded like he was hurt the whole year and we didn't see him that much and whatever, but he played 2,000 minutes. So that's a good season.
Yeah. So last fun thing, I know we talked about City. We've already hit the Blues. Well, I guess, I'd say we talk about Mizzou, but that's real depressing right now. So let's hop into the Cardinals, which is not a whole lot less depressing. The only good thing I have coming out of the Cardinals right now. So Mozeliak, this is last year. He's pretty much just there to make sure the papers are signed and that he's handed over all his keys.
It's a ramp up period for Keim Bloom. That's what it is.
Yeah. And they've made it very clear they're going with the youth movement. Here's my quick hot take, and then I want your opinions on it. Is I agree. I think we need to roll out the young guys. We need to give them the runway. We need to give them a chance. The one spot that I'm worried about us potentially just throwing in the towel in certain spots is Miles Michaelis still in the starting rotation. It's one of those I'd almost rather us just. I mean, it's fine if you keep him on the roster as a contract as a guy to help some of these young pitchers, but he doesn't need to be rolled out every 5th day. Nobody wants to see that anymore. And I'm a huge Michaelis fan. I've been a huge Michaelis fan for years, but he's lost it. And I'd rather see some of these young pitchers have some chances. And maybe it's hey, he's your spot starter when guys need an extra day, etc. I really, really hope we keep Contreras, and it sounds like we are planning on it currently. But I really hope we keep Contreras, and I really hope we keep Sonny Gray, especially now. I feel like Sonny Gray had the most trade value for us, but when we didn't pick up the option on Gibson, I feel like Sonny Gray is now going to be the guy to fill that role as kind of your veteran leader pitcher of that you want. That's who you want your young guys to emulate at the major league level.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Until the winter meetings occur, we don't really know. That's when a lot of the offseason trades happen, right?
Or at least start,
right? It's been rumored that Contreras is going to mostly play first base this year, which he does not really want to do. I've heard it, the positives for it from the organization's perspective is, you want him out there more, and you also want decent defense, right? And that's a way to get him in the field every day and get him in the lineup every day. On the other hand, if you're wanting to shed his salary and he's got a full no trade clause, or at least no trade clause to teams that you think would be interested in him, one of the ways to do that is to say, well, we're going to play you in a position that you don't want to play in. And then suddenly he becomes more amenable to a trade. And I'm not saying that that's what they're doing, but I've heard that argument out there. I don't know. I would love to keep Sonny. I would love to keep Wilson. And I would love to keep the Nolan Arenado that Colorado got that I don't think we've really seen a whole lot of. But that's neither here nor there.
I was talking to a coworker of mine about Nolan Arenado, and he put it as, you watched Nolan play in Colorado and you saw the fire and the passion and
right, exactly,
whatever. And it was, He came to St. Louis and it was like they castrated him.
I don't even think it's that. I think it's that
that was his words, right? But that was his words. But it almost felt like it was like he came here and it's like, this is how we do things here, like whatever. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's the way it looks.
I mean, I was kind of thinking it was like he came here and just like kind of settled because he got his bag, But maybe that's me.
He had already had that. Know. He already had that bag. He already had that contract.
We extended him when he came.
Did we?
I thought we did.
I thought he already had the contract, but he had an opt-out. But it was a him opt-out, not a team opt-out. And so the big question was whether he would take that continue, because I thought he had already signed like an 8-year deal with Colorado, and they promised him they were going to build around him, and then they didn't.
We had to give him a new contract, I know, because and maybe he was already on a long contract, but he got an extra opt-out for waiving his no trade clause. That was something that the MLSPA or the MLBPA required as part of it to help protect him, even though it was supposedly not a thing he was asking for. But the trades require MLBPA sign off, and they demanded that we give him something more as part of it. So the move that really surprised me the most as far as Cardinals moves is that they did not take the option on Middleton. That surprised me. And I know we didn't see him this year because he got injured, but I thought the team was really high on him. And I know we have a lot of young arms, but I kind of thought that they might keep him to help bolster the bullpen. But again, they've got a lot of young arms they want to see, like not a lot of spots.
When they did not pick up his option, to me, that signaled that they're at least planning to hold on to Helsley until the trade deadline. Because I felt like if they had picked up the option, I felt like they were going to try to move Helsley in the offseason.
Right. Well, I think that just depends on what offers they get, right?
And they still could. Like, I'm not saying they won't, but I mean, like, their mental plan is,
right.
If they'd picked up the offer on Middleton, I thought it was 100. I was like, he doesn't get through spring training on our team,
right?
But if by declining that option, I'm like, they're at least anticipating, okay, if we don't get the right offer, we're going to start with Helsley on our
right.
team.
Well, and what you're really saying there is, okay, off season, Helsley's on the trade block. Everyone knows that, right? And it's what offers do we get? And then it's, our team's willing to spend more for a full year of him than what teams will, if they think that he is going to be the piece to push them over the edge in July. And chances are his value will be at its highest in July when teams are desperate to make that playoff push.
If he's healthy and still pitching close to as well as he did last year.
Close to as well as he did. Yeah. If he's healthy and having a good year, I think his track record is good enough now that he'll be able to command a decent return. So
yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Winter meetings this year are going to be really interesting for the Cardinals and for Cardinals fans, and I'm really intrigued to see kind of who, when spring training hits, what young guys take this opportunity and start to run with it. That's what I'm probably most excited about. I'm excited we're finally just making the commitment to let's give the keys to our young guys and let's see how we go, where we're at and what we might need to draft, develop, fill in pieces wise. And the one big name, I was much more on par of trading him last year than you were, is Nolan Gorman. And it goes back to, and you were talking about this with Kairu, is do you focus on the areas you suck? Or do you just keep focusing on the ones you're already good at and making yourself elite in those areas?
Yeah.
And I think Gorman, where he's at right now, is your perfect 7 or 8 hitter where he's going to run into, if he bats there all year long, he's going to run into 30, 35 homers. He's going to strike out a ton. Yeah. But he's going to hit 30 or 35 bombs for you too.
Yeah.
I think further down in the lineup, you can live with, I feel like, some of the strikeouts and the boomer bust of him more so there.
If you have a decent, top 5, right? And I don't think we're going to have that. I mean, you'd have an embarrassment of riches on your team if Nolan Gorman is your 8 hitter. Your lineup is doing really good if you're putting Nolan Gorman in the 8 spot. I think where Nolan Gorman is at is his ideal spot is probably the 4 or the 5, because he's got, or even possibly the 2, somewhere where he's got protection with really good bats behind him, so he doesn't have, you have to throw him strikes, right? Where you can't really walk him and put him on base for other people.
That only works if he can cut down on the strikeouts. But where he's at right now, or where he was this past season, with how high his strikeout percentage was.
Well, that's not a last season thing. That's a who he is thing.
It was higher this season than it was the year before. But yeah, if I remember correctly,
I think it was higher. I'm just saying that's just who he is.
That is who he is. But if that strikeout rate can't come back down a little bit, I mean, I'm not saying he needs to be a contact hitter, but if he can't bring that strikeout rate back down, he's profiles to be a 7-8 hitter. Just because you can't put a guy in the 2-hole who strikes out as often as he does. I mean, I guess they did it with Kyle Schwarber, but multiple teams have.
Kyle Schwarber is a 3 true outcome king, right? Or at least 2 of them. I don't know about his walks, but I know his home runs and his strikeouts are high for both.
Both of them are very high.
Very high, very high, higher than Snoop Dogg. The one thing I'm meaning with this is just there is definitely something to be said about putting someone in a position where there are better hitters that can protect him. Mm-hmm. And maybe the 2 is a little aggressive for that, but I do think that if you put him now, maybe you could be really aggressive and put him in the 9 spot, and then the top of the order is protecting him, right? But the 7 or the 8, there's just no protection for him. And so I think they'll be able to pitch around him easier because you don't really care if you walk him, the handful of times you're going to, because whoever's right behind him is just going to hit into a double play or something. That being said, our really good hitters hit into a lot of double plays last year. So,
yeah.
What do I know?
All right. Who's the one young guy who has not seen significant MLB time that right now you're intrigued to see how it plays out with them in spring training.
You can take any of the pitchers, any of the pitchers on our top 10 prospects list. I want to watch all of them. I don't have any one particular that I'm, more interested in watching than the others. I just want to see some of them, like you said, take their chance, make something of it, and go with it. I
have 3 and they're all pitchers, so
I do have a 4th. I want to add Thomas Sagase to it. That would be the one non-pitcher that I'm really wanting to see.
I like that. And I'm blanking on the guy's name. I'm really intrigued to see what our first round draft pick, what he looks like in spring training. And of course I'm blanking on his name. Second baseman, shortstop from West Virginia. Yep.
JJ. Yeah.
JJ Weatherholt. I'm excited to see him, but
I don't know if he makes spring training this year. He was only in like A ball. He may not be ready for that.
I could see them just inviting him just at the beginning or like for a short stretch, even if he doesn't play, but I think it would be good for him. And him being a 4-year player at college, typically those guys are
they
ready
make it
sooner.
Quicker. Yeah. I mean, they have more experience. Like, yeah.
So the 2 that I'm initially, and I've been thinking about for a long time, and we saw a little bit of one, but Graceffo,
absolutely
excited to see. Tink Hens, I'm excited to see what he looks like. And the one that I didn't see coming, but obviously after the year he just had, is Quinn Matthews.
Yeah.
Your 2024 minor league pitcher of the year. What does he look like?
Yeah. I mean, Hens and Matthews are normally like our top 2 pitching prospects on most lists. And Graceffo, I've seen Graceffo bounce around. I've also, obviously Cooper Hjerpe, Tekoa Roby, those are also guys that are on the list that we want to see. And who's the other one? Robertsay is the other one, right? Any of those guys, I think, have a legitimate opportunity, and they're going to get that this year. So I'm just excited to see them.
I'm excited. I'm more excited about seeing the young guys come out and play and do the things than I was the end of last season, like second half of last season, when we started to you could see the spiral coming, and it's like you don't want to keep seeing that same thing over and over again, but to get to see young guys develop and kind of become your own, like there's something nice. It's the person that I wanted to go see every time I watched a Cardinals game was Mason Wynn. Right? Yeah. Like you want to see the young guy. You want to see how he's performing. You want to see what's going on.
Our best player last year. So,
well, yeah, but you know what I mean? But like having young guys, and especially if they're performing well, it's one of the most exciting things in sports is to watch these young guys come up. And I'm pumped for it.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, like we're actually committing to that this year. Like you feel like those guys are going to get a legitimate chance that they have not had in Cardinals baseball in probably 7 or 8 years. So
it'll be exciting. And it's, you know what, the nice thing is it's something, this is some excitement that, somebody like Stan Kroenke can't take away from you.
That's right.
Because as we all know, Stan Kroenke loves to be an asshole and take good things away. And with that, Stan Kroenke, we hate you. Good night, everyone.